Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, welcome back once again to the Corner of Truth and Courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. Again, let me begin with a Bible verse, Psalms 9, verses 16 through 17. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his hands. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. There's a consequence when we turn against the ways of God, and we're seeing that unfold for the nation of Iran, that for the last 5 decades has been under the throes of the Islamic Republic. The boot of fundamental Islam has been heavy on the throats of the people there for almost 5 decades now. And the people are crying out in the streets, willing to risk life and limb, literally. 30 to 40,000 of their own have been butchered and killed because they are openly resisting this regime, this living under Shariah, under the boot of Islam. I'm here to tell you, many of the Muslims who have fled out of the Middle East over the last decade or more, about 8 out of 10 of them have come to get away from the tyranny of Islam. I would run too, wouldn't you? The world is seeing what fundamental Islam is like. Let me give you just a very quick history lesson. For about 500 years, the Ottoman Empire ruled the Islamic world. They were the last Khalifa, the last caliphate of Islam, and they ruled out of Turkey. And they were kind of moderates. After a while, you kind of get tired of all the killing and jihad, and they use it when it's convenient. But for the most part, most of their clerics began to leave the jihad and leave the sword in the 7th century with Muhammad, and only began to teach kinder, gentler verses out of the Quran, verses that are similar to our Bible, actually. So a great host of Muslims literally believe that that Islam is a religion of peace because that's what they've been taught, really, truly. But the Ottoman Empire came to a close, and most of those people had gone west that, were indoctrinated with this reformed version of Islam, not Muhammad's version, but nevertheless, still under the banner of Islam. But when the Ottoman Empire came to a close, it gave an opportunity for the fundamentalists to take hold of the Islamic world in the Middle East. So we had 3 movements. You had, in Egypt, you had the Muslim Brotherhood. Then in Saudi Arabia, you had the Wahhabis. And in Iran, you had the Shia Muslim. And these groups of fundamentalism took root and grew. And we really saw their influence in the 1970s. And that's when we started hearing about jihad and killing of the infidel and all that kind of stuff. You see, they didn't invent that. They just simply went back to the fundamental teachings of the Quran. They simply read the Quran and believed it, read the Hadiths and believed it and followed it and obeyed it. And if you do, you become militant. I've been warning people of this for 2 decades now. Islam's not the religion of peace. It really is truly an ideology bent on our destruction. If they're going to truly be faithful to their faith and have the courage, not everyone does. They believe it. Some believe it. They know it's there, but they don't have the courage to follow it. And so, if finally we're trying to stamp it out, and a lot of Arabs have worked hard to kick it out of their countries, and they don't want it in. And that's why none of them, by the way, why didn't any of the Arabs take the Gazans? Why didn't Egypt open the doors to the refugees of Gaza? They didn't want them. They kept them in. Why? Because they're the fundamentalists. They don't want that in their country. They've been working to keep it out. No one wants them, to tell you the truth. Iran, no one wants it. And that's why we're having to, face it with the sword. Sadly, I regret that that's the way. But either we bring them death or they bring us our death, sadly. Well, I'm not getting into the material that I planned today. I just kind of took a diversion for a moment. I was going to talk about the fallout of Epic Fury, but let me just continue on with this. I do plan to play this clip. I want you to listen to this clip. There's a group of congressmen, and some of them are, I think there's only one senator, but the rest are congressmen in the House of Representatives. And I want you to hear that they had a caucus. They've set up a caucus now, and they're called the Shariah Free America Caucus. And they held a press conference here recently, and a great number of these representatives stood up and spoke and gave their bit why America needs to be protected against Sharia. And I want you to listen to a Texas representative from, his name's Keith Self. He's a Jew, an American Jew. Hear what he said about the death threat that was given against him and how he has to go to court and to deal with this.
Getting on my normal flight to fly to Washington, I'll go to a courthouse in Florida where I'll be deposed in a criminal case against a man who sent death threats to me and my family. Said, I know where you live. I'm coming to kill you. I'm going to kill your children in front of you. Why did he send me these death threats? By the way, he's the third such person to do so. He sent me these threats while he was overseas and he was arrested by customs on his way into the United States. Why did he send these threats? Because I made a simple statement. If you hear someone yell, praise Jesus, you typically will smile. If you hear someone say, Baruch Hashem, which I may do, you may not know what it means, but you're not going to be afraid. But if someone in this room yelled Allahu Akbar right now, we'd all be looking for a place to hide. Now, this gentleman's excuse, his defense, will be, in my faith, I have the right to go after the infidel. Now, for those of you who think that's crazy, we've seen this before. In Texas, some Muslim children vandalized a church. They sprayed messages on a church. And the civil rights group that supposedly represents mainstream Muslims in Texas says they have the right to do that under the First Amendment because they were practicing their religion. And if anyone is concerned about this, look at what I now call the United Islamic Kingdom and Francistan. In France, they had to cancel New Year's Eve celebrations because they were worried about attacks. In the United Islamic Kingdom, they're now debating in Parliament whether cousin marriage should be legal. There are 57 countries in the world that you can live if you want to live under Sharia. Working with my colleagues, we're going to make sure this one is not number 58.
Wow, folks, when I heard that, I was going to say, I got to play that for our listeners. What he's saying is true, and we need to wake up. And I'm glad that there are people, congressmen, lawmakers who realize we need to protect America from Sharia. Now, one of the men in the group is a friend of mine, Mark Harris from North Carolina. He's a pastor. He used to pastor the First Baptist Church in Charlotte. And he and I have met a number of times. In fact, I've helped try to work on his campaign back when he was running for senator. I'm going to be having a meeting with Mark Harris in the near future. And I want to share with you something that I'm going to be sharing with them. In the Sharia law book, there's a book that actually has all the Sharia law. It's printed in English, translated in English. In fact, it's very interesting. In the front of the book, it has stamps from a number of high institutions in the Arab world. And one of the stamps is the most credible of all. It comes from the Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. If you're a Sunni Muslim and you are a graduate of the Al-Azhar University, this is the creme de la creme. When Obama was our president and his first international trip as our president, he went to Egypt. That was his first stop to the Al-Azhar University to address the Muslim world because of its importance. So what's my point? Their stamp is in this book saying that the translation, the English translation, is credible and consistent, and the doctrines therein in this book are consistent with the Sunni Muslim faith. And in it, you've got over 1,000 pages, about 1,200 pages. The first 360 pages deals with their religion, the laws of their religion, who God is, the five, how you worship him, the 5 pillars and their articles of faith, and all that. All that is in the first 360 pages. But from page 361 onwards is their government, how you set up courts and how courts are run, and judges and how they make their rulings, and it has a financial system, an education system. It has laws for civil, laws for marriage, and and just on and on and on. For goodness sakes, it even tells you how to go to the bathroom. All the laws dealing with your personal hygiene and what's permitted and not permitted, and everything, marriage. And so here's my point. Some say you cannot separate Islam from Shariah. Shariah and Islam are together. But here's the thing. In the United States, when we have the First Amendment that allows freedom of religion, we can very simply and say, even in your Sharia book, it separates your religion from everything else. And the First Amendment gives you protection for your religion. So Muslims, say your prayers, go on your Hajj, practice your Ramadan, your fasting, which they're doing that right now. Build your mosque, say your prayers, do all that stuff there. You have protection here in our country to be a Muslim and have those things. However, anything after page 360 that's outside of your religion is your government. And the First Amendment does not provide protection for you to come and bring the government and the other laws of Sharia into our country. And so using their very tools, you can divide the religion from Islam, from the Sharia, and make clear our First Amendment applies to the first 300, from page 1 to 360. But page 361 onwards, no, that does not apply. And we have our own religion, our own government, our own system. And anything outside of that, it should be considered illegal, a foreign law, foreign entity, and should not be permitted here. And so we have the truth on our side, folks. We can protect our country, and we can uphold our ways. And we should say to every immigrant, now I lived as an immigrant, as a guest in another country for 29 years. I know what it's like to be the immigrant. I know what it's like to be the foreigner. And I went as a guest, and I was respectful. I was respectful for their ways and their customs. And in fact, I embraced that. It was part of and it still is in many ways, of who I am. Why? Because we need to be respectful of the nation we live in. And we should expect the same of immigrants that come to our places. Well, clock says we're going to have to stop here. Well, I hope that you're enjoying our broadcast here at Fortress of Faith. Tell your friends about us and bring them along with you next week, and join us at the corner of truth and courage. God bless you.